this some kind of joke? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight.
You don't know what death is.
What's going on, horror fanatics? Welcome to I Shot Him 6 Times YouTube horror movie channel. As you know, I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys my trailer breakdown review of The Strangers Chapter 1. If you haven't done so already, please shoot this video a like. It definitely helps out with the YouTube algorithm a ton, as well as if you happen to be a new viewer to this channel, please shoot that subscribe button as well as that notification icon so you get all the latest content updates to the channel, as well as if you'd like to become a member here to the channel, shoot over to the channel dashboard and shoot that join icon that you see displayed. Okay, everyone, so the trailer starts off with our two main protagonists, Maya and Ryan, portrayed by Madelainepetsch and Froygutierrez, as they are on a 3-day road trip going across the country, but it is also their 5-year anniversary, so I would assume that this is the main purpose for their trip. They seem to be a very happy couple, which is actually the complete opposite of the couple of Kristen McKay and James Hoyt from the original film in 2008, as it was established early in the original that the couple were on the fence due to Kristen not accepting James's marriage proposal, which would set the tone for the movie from a tension standpoint. Now in this shot, we see a diner named Carol's Diner and a hardware store that is right next to it as the couple is heading into the diner to eat. This is another thing that is different from the original film, as in the original, the entire movie's location was only at the Hoyt residence where the events of that film would take place, so this new film seems to have a little bit more breathing room in terms of scenery. In this shot, we see the Airbnb cabin that the couple is staying at, and as y'all can see, there are some distinct differences from this new one compared to the original, as this updated cabin has 2 floors, which is later confirmed in the trailer when we see Dollface coming down the stairs. The original didn't have 2 floors, and the outside structure is also different, as the Hoyt's residence didn't have a deck attached to it like this new one does. In this scene, to further clarify that this is an Airbnb that the couple has rented, Maya says to Ryan, and I quote, "I bet the people who live here are really happy." So unlike in the original, where the residents belong to one of our main characters' family, this place doesn't belong to them, which makes me think, what if the cabin belongs to the strangers themselves? I don't know why my brain took me there, but it did, and I want y'all to leave a comment with your thoughts about the possibility of that turning out to be true. We then get to see some of the townies, which again is another thing that is different compared to the original film, and it is very noticeable that they don't seem very welcoming toward the pair. Even Ryan had made a comment about this in the trailer. We get our first look at Richard Brake as he is portraying Sheriff Rodder in Strangers Chapter 1. Also take note that this film is taking place in Oregon, as is displayed on the wall behind Ryan, as opposed to the Pennsylvania setting from the first film. The pair then runs into 2 Mormon boys, which is a direct homage to the original film, as those were the boys who ended up finding Kristen and James after their attack. However, this version of the Mormon boys seem to be more darker and less endearing, as they just stare at the couple without saying a word. Very unusual. I'm starting to feel that the town in its entirety might play a significant role in the film, as everyone that you see outside of Maya and Ryan appear to be very odd and mysterious, as if they're being cast as red herrings. If that is the case, there is a possibility we could see our 3 killers unmasked at some point in the movie before the attack at the cabin begins. But it could also just be a case of the townfolk being very reserved and mysterious when it comes to outsiders, and could hold no effect on who the killers are in the overall plot. We then head back to the cabin where the couple is enjoying their night before being interrupted by the infamous knock at the door. Much like in the original, a figure appears and utters a famous question, "Is Tamara home?" staying true to the original dialogue. Maya tells the figure they have the wrong house. The figure quickly pans out of frame, visibly spooking the couple. Now in the original film and in the sequel, Strangers Pray at Night, the knocking at the door and asking the question of "Is Tamara home?" was originally done by Dollface, and it is safe to assume that in this scene, this is Dollface here as well. Keep in mind that when Dollface knocks at the door in both films, in the previous 2 films, she was maskless, which explains her face being blacked out, much like you see in this shot. However, this version of Dollface is very different in my opinion. You don't see the long blonde hair. Instead, the head is being covered with a scully. But more importantly, this version does not sound nor look like a girl. I think this version may be a boy. I'm going to play clips of the "Is Tamara home?" line from all 3 films, with the last clip being from the Strangers Chapter 1 trailer when Dollface knocks.
Is Tamara here? Is Tamara home?
Is Tamara here?
Okay, so I definitely do think that this is a teenage boy in this scene who will be wearing the doll face mask, especially when you compare the last clip's voice from Chapter 1's trailer to the other voices from 2008 and 2018 sequel. I think it's pretty definitive that this is a boy's voice in his scene. Now, I tried my best to brighten up this image. This is the best that I can get it, but in my opinion, when you really hone in on the structure of the face, in my opinion, this shows that this is a boy now playing the role of Dollface. Now, I could most certainly be wrong on this assumption. We'll find out as more details release, but I'm going to stand strong on this theory that this is indeed a boy now portraying the role of Dollface in Strangers Chapter 1. As the pair are having dinner, they realize blood is dripping from over top of them. As they observe, they witness this dead turkey hanging from the ceiling. Both go into a frenzy as everything starts to unfold. You see Ryan close the window, which is most likely how the trio got into the house, and then we see Maya attempt to go out the front door, only to be met with an axe that misses her face by a small margin. All of this, aside from the turkey dilemma, are callbacks to the original. The axe through the door scene is slightly different, as in the original, James and Kristen were walking toward the door when the man in the mask barreled the axe through it. They weren't as close to the door as Maya is in this scene. We then see this brief shot of pinup girl chasing Maya through the woods, similar to the shot of the man in the mask later in the trailer. The cinematography in these shots are spectacular. Adding that blue lighting gives these chase scenes an eerie ambiance we did not see in the original film, as those chase scenes in the woods were very dark and somewhat hard to see, which was obviously done on purpose to make the pop-up scenes more frightening, which was effective, but I must say this blue lighting just gives this scene in the woods an atmosphere that stands out. Toward the back end of the trailer, we get the tagline, "Witness how the strangers became the strangers," which would imply that this film is going to be a prequel to the events of the original film, which would line up with director Renny Harlin's statement that Strangers Chapter 1 is not going to be a reboot or a remake to the original, but will serve as its own standalone film. This would imply that Maya and Ryan could be the trio's first victims or first targets, and that the murderous rampage started here with them in Oregon and proceeded to make its way throughout the country, which would explain how the trio ended up at the Hoyt's residence in Pennsylvania in 2008. If this is going to be a prequel to the events of the original film, it is going to be interesting to see if in Chapter 2 or Chapter 3 we get the return of Liv Tyler's character Kristen, as many fans have wondered what happened to her after the events of the original, being that she was still alive when the Mormon boys found her and James in the house. We then see various shots of what looks like some of the more intense scenes in the film. You can see pinup girl scraping the knife against the ledge of the counter. You can see part of her dress, which clarifies this is indeed her in the scene. We also get a motorcycle explosion with a sick shot of the man in the mask looking on in the background. We also see Maya hiding in what looks to be the basement as pinup girl arrives, which forces Maya toward the window, only for the man in the mask to bust through the window and grab her. It's going to be fun watching this scene play out in terms of Maya's escape, because she's cornered in a scenario which would imply her chances of getting away are very slim. We then get this homage to the original when we see our antagonist ram their vintage red and white Ford truck into the couple's car as they attempt to escape. Once again, slight difference here, as in this version, the truck is rammed through the side of the car. In the OG, it was rammed into the back of the car, being it was parked differently. In this version, you can't see who is driving the truck, but in the original, it was pinup girl who was behind the wheel for that scene, so we can assume it may be her here as well, but it could be either one of them in this updated version of the scene. Amazing shot here, the man in the mask driving the axe into the car. We can assume that this is directly after the truck rammed into the side of the car. Again, the cinematography in these shots from the trailer are what really stand out to me in this trailer. It's a glaring improvement from the original in my opinion, and I think visually fans are going to really enjoy what this new film is offering in that department, especially during the intense scenes like this one. As the trailer is wrapping up, we get this shot of the strangers standing in front and staring at the couple as they are bound to their chairs, an obvious callback to the iconic scene from the original. This was noticed in the first look images for the film, but our antagonist's attire is different from the original in some aspects. In this version, Dollface and Pinup Girl wear scullies or some type of beanie on their heads, something that they didn't wear in the original or in Pray at Night. This version of the man in the mask dons more drifter-like clothing, whereas in the original, he wore a suit and tie. His mask is also slightly different, as in this version, it fits more tightly on his head. In the original, the mask was a little bit more baggy and the eyes were wider. Maya then asks the iconic magic question of "Why are you doing this to us?" and in a switch up unforeseen, Pinup Girl responds by saying "Because you are here." In the original, the line was "Because you were home." Now, I think this switch up in the dialogue for this line actually holds the same effectiveness as the original line in terms of the randomness of the motive, and here's why. In the first two films, the attacks took place at a family residence that our victims were staying at. Though the motive for what the trio does is random, it made things easy for the trio because at some point they knew the victims were going to come home because they'd been stalking their prey prior to actually attacking them. This is further proven when you see them find ways to get inside their victims' homes as well as know their way around the area of their victims' properties. This place that Maya and Ryan are residing at is an Airbnb. It's not their actual home. As was established earlier in the trailer, they are on a 3-day road trip, which I will add real quickly, is also a callback to the original characters of 2008 Strangers, as James and Kristen were supposed to go on a road trip, but because she turned down his marriage proposal, he canceled the plans. So by having these new characters and Maya and Ryan staying at a random location outside of their actual home, adds a new layer to the randomness nature of the killer's motives, as having them attack people at a random location or a vacation spot such as this shows you don't even have to be in your actual home or a family member's home, as it was in the original two films, to encounter the trio. This is why the switch in the tagline to "because you're here" works, just as well as the original tagline of "because you were home." I will say these killers do seem to know their way around the area of the Airbnb pretty well, which leads me to speculate our strangers, maybe 3 residents of the town, and possibly saw the couple when they were driving through town and followed them, as I don't see any other way they could have known the couple would be there at this Airbnb, being that they just arrived, which would leave the trio no time to case the area and know it as well as they seem to know it. To close out the trailer, we get this scene where we see Ryan pointing a rifle at Pinup Girl, and she seems to be challenging him to shoot as she proceeds to throw up her hands and scream in his face. The rifle is another Easter egg from the Hoyt residence in the original film, but what caught my attention in this scene is the obvious hesitation in pulling the trigger from Ryan. You would think there would be no hesitation to shoot these people who have been terrifying you and your girlfriend all night. I wonder if there's something to that hesitation from Ryan, because in the original film, James didn't even know how to use the gun and still didn't hesitate firing shots. He even killed his best friend, thinking that it was one of the killers. So Ryan hesitating in this moment seems a little odd to me. Something to keep in our minds leading into the film. And of course, before I close out this trailer breakdown review of The Strangers Chapter 1, I have to mention the callback of the old record player from the original film, as we got 2 shots of it in the trailer, and I feel it was a great idea to add this Easter egg, being that the music that was played in the background of the original film as the chaos ensued had a major role in the eeriness of the film, which leads me to speculate it will play the same role here in this new film as well. Yo DJ, cue up that Merrill Haggard.
Steer me right, but mama tried to raise me better.
Overall, I think the trailer was solid. Really interested to see where rennyharlin is going to take this 3-part revival of The Strangers. We got a great mixture of nostalgia along with new things to look forward to in this trailer, such as the house not only being the main focal point, there's some breathing room with the diner and the townfolk. I'm sure we'll get to know some of those characters. And as I stated earlier, the cinematography in the woods is my favorite highlight from the trailer. It really has me excited to watch these chase scenes play out. But okay, everyone, that is it for this video. Leave a comment in the comment section below and share your thoughts on The Strangers Chapter 1 trailer. Are you excited for the film? As well as let me know if you found any other Easter eggs in the trailer that were not mentioned here in this video. Once again, this is Shop 6 Times YouTube Horror Movie Channel. I'm your host and creator of the channel, Marcus. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, and TikTok. Thank you all for watching.